G'day guys and welcome back today to another video on the Druzy channel for another episode of 9 Things We Learned from Round 8. Before we get into the video, I just want to say that I appreciate all the support on the videos recently. However, we are still pushing for 10,000 subscribers, so if you aren't subscribed to the channel and you enjoy the content, make sure to hit that subscribe button and leave a like on the video to help support the channel. Comment down below the things that you learned from this round, and let's get into the 9 things that I learned from this round of footy. Number 1. Port's forwards need to lift. Adelaide caused the upset in the showdown thanks to a great midfield performance really from them. Jake Soligo getting the best on ground. They're starting to get their midfield mix right with Soligo, Isaac Rankin and Rochelle running through at times. So credit to Adelaide first and foremost for winning the showdown, causing the upset. And as a Freo fan, I know how it feels to be upset in a derby that you're expected to win. And there's lots of people saying right now, Port are still pretenders. We've seen this before, yada, yada, yada. I think Port have all the tools to be a very serious contender at this point in their development, but their forwards just don't deliver consistently enough. Yes, Port Adelaide were sort of beaten around the ground, but they did have their chances and they were just inaccurate in front of goal. There's only so much that Butters, Rosé on one leg, and these midfielders can do week to week, but they've got all the personnel in the forward line to make it work. Dixon, Marshall, Georgiades, these are massive targets that you can go to. Willie Rioli is an all-Australian caliber player. Their forward line needs to gel better. They've had long enough now to be an effective forward line. The Powers forward line needs to lift to get this pretenders tag off their back. I think in every line they have everything they need, but the forwards just don't consistently deliver, and we need to see it at this point. Number 2. Nick Daicos is him. I was at this game Friday night, Collingwood versus Carlton, and it was the biggest game I've ever been to at the MCG. It was an absolute spectacle. So great to be there. Aside from the game, I just wanted to say that coming from Perth, moving over here, to be able to watch a game like that at the MCG, Collingwood versus Carlton, 88,000 people there, you are truly blessed if you have got to see that growing up. Like, it was incredible to watch. The names on that field, you got Scotty Pendlebury, Paddy Cripps, Sam Walsh, Darcy Moore, the Daicos brothers, like all of the stars of the sport that are going to be talked about for generations and generations. Just getting to watch that at the MCG in front of a massive crowd was something that I'll never forget. It was absolutely incredible. But out of all those stars that I just mentioned, Nick Daicos stands head and shoulders above them all at this point in his career so far, getting the best on ground amongst some of the best midfielders in the competition. The degree of difficulty on the goal that he kicked was ridiculous. At speed, to gather, snap from the pocket at that time in the game with that amount of pressure, and he just makes it look like so easy. He was just in a flow state. Being at the game and just watching some of the things he does, how he moves with and without the ball, how strong he is in the tackle, his sort of off-ball movement as well, his ability to finish, how dangerous he is around the stoppage. This kid is the future biggest star, if not already the biggest star in the competition. Nick Daicos is that guy, and Nick Daicos is Carlton's dad. Number 3, the Swans are scary. I don't know why, but I feel like Sydney are somewhat under the radar, even though they're at the top of the ladder. Like, the last 3 weeks of footy they've played, they pumped Gold Coast, pumped Hawthorn, just absolute dominant performances, and then they've comprehensively beaten the Giants as well by 6 goals, and the Giants have been one of the best teams in the comp this year. The midfield is just impeccable. As soon as Tom Green went down, their mids just started winning the contested ball and got to work. When you've got Grundy hitting it down to Heaney, Goulden, Rowbottom, Warner, the talent of these guys, they go so hard for 4 quarters and they hit the scoreboard as well. I think all of those mids that I just mentioned had a goal or 2 in this game, and they do every week. To have such a comprehensive win against such a strong side in terrible conditions just shows that Sydney can do it against anyone, no matter what the conditions at any time. Still such a young side, but they've got so much talent that's got a lot of footy into them at this point in their career. To think about guys like Errol Goulden and Chad Warner, they're still super young, and the footy that they're playing is incredible. The Swans play Freo Friday night at Optus Stadium. That's going to really, really test us and show us where we're at. I am scared, but I am confident that we will show up. So we'll see how we go. The Swans are scary. I can't really think of a more complete side in the AFL at this point in the season. Number 4. Clash of the Titans. St Kilda versus North Melbourne. Saturday Arvo at Marvel. Great. Look, how much can you learn from the worst side in the competition getting beaten by St Kilda? Darcy Wilson had a great game. We've spoken about Darcy Wilson a few weeks ago and what a star he is. The fact that he can go forward and kick goals and play as a key forward is very promising. He can play on the wing. He could really do anything, Darcy Wilson. Probably play him at half back. But to be honest, I learnt nothing from this game. It just confirmed to me that Darcy Wilson is a great player for the St Kilda boys. What did you guys learn from the St Kilda and North Melbourne game? Let me know, because honestly, that game just does nothing for me. Number 5, Melbourne has entered the chat. For all the talk in the off-season about how Melbourne were going to struggle this year, I think it's important that them same people should be held accountable to talk now about where they are at this point in the season. They've beaten Geelong, who were undefeated, 7-0. So you got to say Melbourne are premiership contenders, and I think all that talk in the off-season was absolute BS. Melbourne just continue to impose their brand of footy, a real tough contested side who are really hard to score against. They're the same team that they have been for the last 3 years, and the last 3 years has held them in pretty good stead. So for all the talk about Melbourne in the off-season, that they were going to struggle, all this and that, it just goes straight in the bin, and Melbourne are once again contenders in 2024. Led by their captain, Gawn. He was massive all day. Bailey Fritsch with a beautiful goal at the end of the game to seal it. It won't be goal of the year, but at the time of the game, the skill to do that and the way that it sort of dribbled through was so satisfying to watch. It was good to see Cozzy Pickett have a good game as well. I feel like he's been a bit slow to get going this year with a suspension in there as well. Windsor and Langdon on the wings had good games for the Ds. It was just a great win. Can't get any better against the rivals in Geelong. So you have to say that Melbourne will be contenders once again. They're certainly not going to miss the top 8. Great win for the Ds, and I think that they can silence all their critics that they've had early on in the season. Number 6, Zach Merrett for the Brownlow. Zach Merrett has been one of the best players in the competition at this point in the season. He was best on ground against West Coast. He got the best on ground against Collingwood. This could be the Brownlow medalist for 2024. Essendon currently sit 5th on the ladder. A massive start to the season for the Bombers. And a long-awaited sort of period of success, I suppose, for all you Essendon fans. So congratulations. I've been pretty critical of the Bombers midfield, and I'm still not sold on it. But when you got Parrish getting 35 and Merrett doing what he does, Sammy Durham helping give a chop out, Essendon's midfield is probably better than I've given credit for. I did a tear maker the other day, and I wasn't too hot on Essendon, and I still think they're pretty. I'm not convinced, but Zach Merrett is one of the best players in the comp. I just need to see this throughout the whole season from their whole midfield. Zachy Merrett, so clean inside, like his partner in crime, Darcy Parish, run so hard all day. He's starting to get forward now as well, kick some really nice goals against West Coast. I think a massive part of Essendon's form has been the form of Zach Merrett. He's leading by example. He's probably got 6 votes in the last 2 weeks. Should be a lock for All-Australian and will definitely be a Brownlow sniff come the end of the season. Number 7. Dockers midfield, too classy for depleted Tigers. Freo showed up to the MCG and absolutely dominated Richmond. I expected that. I predicted Freo to win by 10 goals. We ended up winning by 9. The Tigers are just absolutely depleted. I was looking at the sort of stoppages at the MCG, and it's, Fife, Hayden Young, Brayshaw or Sarong coming up against Tyler Sonsi, Marlon Pickett, and they might have had a Shea Bolton or a Dusty in there, but I feel like the success of those stars, Shea Bolton and Dusty, depended on a lot of heavy lifting from guys like Trent Cotchin and others in those premiership years. Now that their list is so depleted, the onus on them to perform to a higher level is much higher, and they just don't have the pieces around them that they need to flourish. Caleb Sarong is having an incredible season again. He has to be an All-Australian player. Loves winning the contested ball. So clean on the inside to get it out to guys like Hayden Young and others. We know what Hayden Young does. He's so slick with his skills. Loves biting off the corridor kick, opening the game up. But he started to hit the scoreboard quite a lot as well, which is something that guys like Brayshaw and Sarong probably don't do as much. Kicked 2 goals in the 4th quarter, 1 right foot snap, and then 1 out of the stoppage, which is just an absolute piece of art from him. Jackson taps it down, takes it cleanly, pushes off a defender, spins out and kicks it on his opposite foot from 45 and it sails through. That is world-class football from Hayden Young. He found Josh Tracy, who's another player that's in terrific form, career best form. We've been screaming out for key forwards for a long time, and Amos and Tracy now coming into the fold has been what we've been crying out for years. We take the 4 points at the MCG and a 54-point win. Happy days. We only have a 4-day break, and then we're playing the Swans on Friday night, which is a big jump in competition. But the boys are primed and ready for the test. Let's have you, Sydney. Number 8, Bevo, it's time to go. Full credit to Hawthorn, second win of the season. Loved watching Jack Ginnivan in that fourth quarter, the IQ, popping up with a goal. A real smart player, Jack Ginnivan. I know people aren't too hot on him for, the character that he is, but you can't forget this guy's an elite footballer. Connor McDonald, he had a great game as well, kicked a beautiful goal. And Sicily swinging from back to forward, getting banged up all day. It was a great performance from the captain. I think we've finally seen enough of Luke Beveridge at the Bulldogs. He's been there for a long time. Won the flag 8 years ago, lost the grand final a couple years ago. When your performances are so inconsistent week to week, you're not pushing for a flag, but you're not rebuilding. You don't know what your best 22 is. It's time to go. Bulldogs fans don't know if their side is going to turn up week to week. He doesn't make sense in press conferences. We've seen enough, Bevo. You've been there for a long time. You've won the Bulldogs a flag, but I think there's so much talent on this list that just isn't performing to its potential. The fact that they've got Bontempelli, Adam Treloar, Tom Liberatore with an All-Australian ruckman, Norton, Ugle-Hagan, and they can't win a game of football against a struggling Hawthorn side is ludicrous. They didn't show up against a side that's been struggling, that is properly rebuilding. This is the nail in the coffin. I think we've seen enough now. Bulldogs fans, have your say in the comments. What do you think should happen with Luke Beveridge? Do you think you give him the season? I don't think it's really worth it personally, but I'd be interested to hear what you guys have to say. And number 9, Gold Coast were abysmal. This is a massive game for Gold Coast. The Q clash to win, to go into the top 8, and they did not even get near it. Again, maybe it's something to do with derbies, because Port Adelaide hardly showed up. Freo didn't show up against West Coast. But Gold Coast were terrible against the Lions. The Lions were a few rotations down as well. Terrible day with injuries. So you'd think Gold Coast could just run over the top of them. But they were so untidy all day with their disposal. They couldn't get any ground balls. The pressure across the ground in the forward line was so easy to bring the ball out. The Lions just chipped the ball through the middle of the ground and then had their way in the forward line. It was just terrible footy from the Suns. And I'm hating this narrative that Gold Coast are a young side, all this and that, because I'm watching the game and it's Tuke Miller, it's Noah Anderson, Matt Rao, Flanders, Tom Atkins, who's an experienced AFL player. Ballard and Collins are getting dominated. You got Lukosius and guys like that. There's enough maturity there for Gold Coast to at least be competitive. It was the same narrative a few weeks ago against Sydney. It just wasn't good enough, and it wasn't good enough against Sydney either. It's just been a classic Gold Coast season. Start really well, and then just put in shit performances. And I say this with passion because I do like Gold Coast. I like a lot of their players. So to see them just not turn up was... yeah, it was frustrating. Be better, Gold Coast. The league wants to see it. And there we go. There's 9 things that we learned from round 8. But before you click off the video, if you please leave a like rating, that would be massively appreciated. And subscribe to the channel if you're new. Comment down below the 9 things that you learned from this round of footy. Keep it locked to the Druzy channel. More content coming out every week. And go follow my Instagram and TikTok if you aren't already, @_Druzy for more content. But I'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care. You plonkers.